Rise and shine. Pour yourself a cup of coffee and tune in to Good Morning Aurora. News, weather, and really cool interviews. Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m.
Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. The time is now 8 a.m. You are listening to Good Morning, Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast. And we got a great episode today. We have a gentleman who doesn't need any introduction from us, really. He's a really he's a really famous guy. He has done a lot of cool stuff. He's won awards, really done a lot of really cool things. And that trail of superlatives can lead to only one man, and that is Mr. Eddie Torres. Shouts out for Eddie. All right. So before we get into the episode and everything, we do have some news to tell you guys about, let you know what's happening and let you know what's to come. Probably the most important thing for the business community, especially here in downtown, is to register your business by December 31st. And December 31st is coming up very quickly. I mean, it's almost Christmas. We're just 2 days away. All right. So in regards to registering your business, what's important about that is that in the age of COVID-19, this information and data is very critical. The General Business Registration Ordinance requires all entities conducting business within the city to register with the city of Aurora. By registering your business, you're contributing to the continued success and safety of your employees. So shouts out to the city. Let's get that done with the General Business Registration Ordinance. You guys heard it here. You got to get it done if you are a business and want to remain a business in good standing. You will definitely head on over and get that filled out. We posted the link on our social, so you can go back to our Facebook page and get that link, check it out, and make sure that you get squared away. All right. Remember, Township. Aurora Township has elections going on. February of next year are the primaries, and then the actual elections are April 6th. Are you familiar with who is running? And better yet, are you familiar with Aurora Township and if you live in Township or not? A lot of people are not, so you can find out a lot about that. You can reach out to Mr. Alex for Aurora, I think is his Instagram and social media handle. We interviewed that young man. He is running for Aurora Township Supervisor. We also had the pleasure of interviewing Sherry Spears and Bonnie Kunkel, both of whom are running for trustee. So get to know Aurora Township. Check it out. The Aurora Township does a lot of stuff, and not many people know anything about it. Shouts out to New England Congregational Church and Art Bar for the Light Up the Night, Candlelight, and Community that just happened on Monday. That was really good, and we're still seeing some of the social media and the pictures from that. So it was really cool. Shouts go out to all of the organizations of faith that were involved and all the community members who came out to take part too. Yesterday, we got a chance to talk to Fred Rogers. That was a really cool episode. That episode is live on YouTube. It's on our Spotify, Apple, and Google Play. Subscribe to our Spotify, subscribe to our Anchor or our YouTube channel, and that's how you can stay up to date with all the stuff that we've got going on. So much news, and we've got a whole lot more of that to come. Shots go out also to Cottonseed Creative Exchange and Allure Candle Company. Allure has winter plum and caramel apple candles on display for sale now at our friends at Cottonseed Creative Exchange, 8 North Broadway. Shouts go out to Yvonne. And also, don't forget that the holiday hours, Christmas Eve is 11 from 11 to 4, and Christmas Day at Cottonseed, they are closed. Shouts out to all the small businesses in downtown Aurora. Shouts also go out to all the people who have been participating in and ultimately applied for the Aurora CRB, that's a Civilian Review Board. The deadline for that was yesterday. So if you did take part, very cool. If you did not take part, well, you're still cool. Just find out a way to get involved. Okie dokie. Now, also want to bring some attention to Polar Express and the Aurora Downtown Art Initiative. So, Aurora Express is the downtown-wide holiday window theme featuring trains and other modes of transportation from yesteryear to today. You can see a whole lot of good artwork by just driving down any of the streets really in downtown Aurora and checking out what's on the windows. Really nice stuff, really great art painted by a lot of our friends and fellow artistes. Okay, now, yesterday was the holiday hope for groceries drive-through distribution, and that went very well. So shout out to the city of Aurora, Northern Illinois Food Bank, Marie Wilkinson's Food Pantry as well for putting that on. And I want to read something something for you from the mayor of Aurora. It's a holiday message, and I saw this and I thought it was very well placed. Reflect on the times we've had. This unique year of 2020 is almost done. Look forward to greater days ahead as we prepare for an amazing 2021. May our families celebrate safely so our future remains healthy and bright. We are one Aurora. We are Aurora strong. We are the city of lights. And that is a holiday message from Mayor Richard C. Irvin and the Aurora City Council. Very cool. All right. So, with that being said, I think that's all for the news, but I did have one more thing I wanted to remind you guys about. Oh, that's right. So, let me see here. This is going to be next month. Next month, keep an eye out because there's going to be a whole lot of new and exciting initiatives taking place in downtown Aurora in regards to Aurora Downtown Arts. Specifically, stay up to date on what's going on with the Aurora Public Art Commission and the Aurora Artists Alliance. Those two organizations have a whole bunch of things bubbling and cooking, and so do we. And we want to say thank you to all of our subscribers, all of our fans, and all of our listeners for sticking with us and helping us to produce great content. We really appreciate it very much, and we've got a whole lot more in store for you guys coming up in 2021. You better, messing my words up. You better believe it. All right. And with that, that's the news. Glad that you took some time to come on to the show.
Thank you for having
us today.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor and privilege.
For the listeners and the viewers, those who are unfamiliar with you, let us know who you are and where you're from.
So my name is Eddie Torres. I live currently in North Aurora. Born in Chicago, northside Chicago, Wrigleyville, go Cubs.
Wrigleyville, northside.
That's right, northside. But my folks, were Puerto Ricans. But born here, my folks were born in Puerto Rico. My dad came here at an early age, and we started the family here. So, yeah.
Okay. And the story of Puerto Rican Americans, specifically in the Chicagoland area, is a history all of its own.
Yes, Chicago. My dad came at the age of 18 years old. He was 18 years old and caught us playing like most Puerto Ricans here, and worked all the way through his retirement. He's old school Puerto Rican. A lot of old school methodologies of how you do things in life.
Oh yeah, there's only one way. Yeah,
right.
There's the American way, the Puerto Rican way.
The Puerto Rican way. Yeah, that's all. They were taught one way.
Yep. Now, you grew up on the north side of Chicago. What was your schooling, specifically after high school?
So, high school was it. High school, and the thing was that we, because of the old school mentality of the Puerto Ricans, there was never a lot of talk about college in our home. It was just get through school and go to work.
Right.
So, and I'm not proud enough to say anymore that I didn't finish high school, but I continued on and got my GED after.
Right.
And that was a decision that was made at home. We relocated from the north side to a little further south to the Humboldt Park, Puerto Rican area.
Okay.
So
yes, heart.
Yes, exactly.
Of the Puerto Rican community.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that kind of changed the dynamics in school, and ended up having to go to work from that point on.
Right.
Yeah.
What year was this?
This was 83, 84.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was Chicago like in the 80s? Your slice of America at that time.
Chicago, Northside Chicago was wonderful. We were it was such a mixture of people. The community I lived in, there was Native American Indians. There was
The sound that you guys are listening to is our doorbell here at the offices of Good Morning Aurora. Nice. We're all good. Yeah.
And so, in very interracial neighborhood, and we all got along. There was whites, there was blacks, there was Latins, there was, like I said, there was Indians, there was, there was no. I mean, we all got along, literally. I mean, so growing up then, it was such a good time you could jump out and play in the community or in the streets with the kids, and we were very creative with the very little that we had. But everyone got along. There was no tension or issues like we have now. It was in my community, in my area where I lived in. It was a lot of it was good times.
Now,
great memories.
Now the Eddie Torres of the '80s, during this time that we're talking about, what was your outlook at that time? What you've become and what you've done, you're familiar with. But what was Eddie Torres's mind like? What was he focused on during those days?
Music. And only because at the age of 9, my dad walks in with a $26 guitar. $26 was a big deal at home. And he didn't play guitar, but he brought in a guitar for him to learn. He plays load instrumentation, and I gravitated to it. And we went to a small community Catholic church, and they had some musicians, and I would sit in the front and watch the guys play, and I would memorize their chord hand positions, come home and practice. That lit up a whole thing of music for me that I didn't have within me. So in my high school years, it was anything that had to do with music. So I was in band, joined a band, and there was some local band group also in the school, and I would join that. And I was also heavily involved in church, as I grew up into my teenage years. And so music was my thing. It's what lit me up. So everything that I did had to have music involved. Anything that was done, if it was a recording studio, if it was a band or some singers, I just gravitated to it immediately.
Now when you started gravitating towards the music and everything, was it something that your parents encouraged you? I mean, you talked about the dad and the $26 guitar.
Yeah.
How was your mom taking it at that time?
My mom was okay with it. I don't think my parents necessarily were lit up by it as much as I was. I think they were impressed by how fast I was learning on my own. A $26 guitar 2 years later became a $80 bass because they saw my dedication, and I wanted to learn how to play the bass. So my dad went to the old Montgomery Ward building or stores and back in the day, and bought an $80 guitar, and even then he bought the bass rather. He bought the electric bass, and without an amp, and I'm practicing and trying to learn how to play the bass on my own. And my mom says, why is this? I can't hear it. I can't hear it. Why is it not loud like the acoustic guitar? I said, well, I think I need an amp.
Right.
So we're like, so we had to get. So now we were saving money to get this small little $25 small amp to plug the bass in so I can practice. But they just lit up by the fact that I was learning on my own so quickly. And I think they took an appreciation to that. And I only say that because I'm trying to jog my memory back to the moments when I would play an instrument and to see their response. I'm like visually trying to see their face at that time frame. And I just remember that, like, wow, you learned that on your own. There was no push about, we're going to send you to music school, we're going to spend some time and save some money to get you into a music and learn more, or invest in your music career or opportunities. It was just, wow, you could do that. That's
right.
Amazing.
Now, separate from music and kind of encompassing all things, what impact did your mom have on your life overall?
Say that question one more time. Sorry.
So, besides the music and encouraging there, what impact did your mom have over your life overall?
Overall,
yeah,
from then to now. The success of music. I think the success of music and my dedication to family. Those two. They admire and I'm the middle child. There's only 3 siblings, and there's 2 brothers and my sister. And being the middle child, for whatever reason, my mom has always felt that I'm more of a responsible and had my ducks in orders in terms of family, and my career. And so till this day, she still says, if something happens with my daughter, my sister, who's older, she calls me, your sister's doing this, and or if it's my younger brother and we're 6 years apart, your brother's doing this, and I'm like, why do I have to deal with this?
Yeah. They got phones.
Yeah, they got phones. The middle child, the middle child syndrome. So that impacted them because I hear the comments, and even fast forward on a really a special moment in my life in my older age, and this just happened about 2 years ago. My mom called me out. She lives in Puerto Rico now. They retired and moved to Puerto Rico, and she said, "Son, I want," it was Mother's Day. It was Mother's Day, and she said, and she's calling me, hey son, how are you? And I said, Mom, happy Mother's Day, first thing in the morning. How are you? Good, and everything's good. She said, listen, I want to apologize to you. And I said, Mom, apologize for what? She says, I was watching a show of this mother and son, and they had a broken relationship because the mom was brought up in a weird, strange way, and she didn't know how to do things, how to nourish a child as much, and so it wasn't the best relationship. And she says, and I know I'm not perfect, and I want to apologize. I know I could, anything that I did to you when I was younger, and I hurt you, and I want to apologize, and I'm sorry. And I'm 50 years old, and I'm hearing my mom say this time, I broke down like a baby. I mean, just because I didn't see it coming, but something moved her, and like I said, we didn't come from the best home. My home was a broken home. As a child, we did see a lot of bad things, but they took a turn when they started going to church, and they're still married. I think 50 something years now in marriage. It's the only marriage that either have had, and so now it's better. And our relationship has been it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Dad, Mom, we get along really good.
Yeah, my parents are divorced, so I didn't start off in a broken home. It became a broken home. So I remember when it was nice, and then like everybody's fighting and the bad shit.
Yeah.
But like, it's interesting because when your parents do that, it makes you see them as somebody other than a parent, kind of thing. So I can relate. I can relate to that. My dad one time, it struck me. My dad was crying one time. I'll never forget. Like I walked into his room and he was crying. My dad didn't know his dad, and seeing my dad cry, like, made me. Right?
Yeah, man. It's not an easy to think. My dad didn't know his parents. My dad's an orphan. He you mentioned that's another common story I guess we have. Dad, when he came here to America, he was already living. His mom was blind. So at the age of, I think it was the age around 8 years old, he was bounced from uncle's to aunt's house,
right,
and on his own from that on. And they never knew who his dad was till this day. And it's still a sensitive topic. I'll because I wanted to try to get a family tree together for my kids and my grandkids, and so there's a history of us and where the Torres came from.
Right.
And so I engage that conversation with Dad occasionally, and Dad's, he gets, you could see it's a sensitive type. So why do you keep asking these questions? I told you I don't know anyone. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. And it breaks my heart when I hear this from him. And sometimes I'm trying to see if he's answering out of frustration, or maybe he knows someone, he doesn't want to talk about it. So I always tread that conversation lightly with him. But yeah, Dad, as you did not know his dad or his mom, really.
So, $26 guitar, $80 bass, and a $25 amp. So now we've spent a little bit of money on some equipment.
Yeah, a little money. got me an elite setup there for an 11-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. Marvin Gaye, move over.
That's right, coming through.
So now with all of that, still, what's our prospects looking like? What's our first job? What's Eddie Torres' first job around this time?
So my first job, it was always hands-on. So in high school, in my sophomore year of high school, I was part of a school program called Cooperative Work Training Program. Okay. So it taught the students, work and responsibility and showing up on time, etc. And so I was working at McDonald's while I was going to high school, and making my little money there. And then I took a job at a pharmacy, and I was a stock kid doing stocking up the pharmacy, and that was in the Gold Coast of downtown.
Wow!
Yeah, it was cool. I remember having to you know, go to some unique buildings to deliver, including the Playboy building, which is going back then. It was a centerpiece. You go in, and the girls are dressed up as some bunnies, but it was just how they greeted people in. You know, they had their clothes on, but back then they had the little bunny with the bunny tail. And
vintage.
Yes, very vintage. Yep. So I'm walking in there with, you know, in the building to bring the supplies over to whoever ordered. The people, tenants would call the pharmacy at a little grocery store and order their stuff. So that was basically my second job, and you know, and moved on. I got married young at the age of 21, you know, and so at the age of 21, coincidentally, that year I landed a city job. So I was got in with the city Department of Aviation. I was working at Midway Airport. That job lasted 13 years. I moved up. I was in ground transportation, dealing with landside vehicles and, you know, all commercial vehicles, and moved up to a supervisor. So I got into management. I was promoted there, and, you know, now managing landside operations, and so I did 13 years. That job lasted 13 years. I left that job to start my career where I'm at now. Midway Airport, Department of Aviation, yeah.
Wow. So,
the old Midway, if you remember the.
Yeah,
you can pull right up front and walk right in.
I remember,
everyone loved Midway because of that. It was sweet.
Midway was always my favorite airport.
Oh yes.
I was always a Midway dude, not O'Hare.
O'Hare.
I remember being it made me feel good to go on like family trips, go to like Georgia by myself on a plane as a young kid.
Yeah.
And I remember like being like 14 and kind of snobby, like. These O'Hareans.
Yeah, right, exactly. Midway is the working class kind of airport.
Midway is the blue collar.
It sure was. Yep.
All right, so now you've got a city job. You're married at 21. Life is perfect, right?
Life is a learning experience. Life is looking good. I'm still pursuing my music career now. At this point, I'm a gigging bass player.
Okay.
You know, so now my opportunities as a bass player was broadened. You know, so I had an opportunity to play in different venues and concerts with artists, in church events and recordings, and so that was all I was focused as becoming the best bass player around. So I was really into, you know, just into my instrument, you know, really fine tuning this, connecting with other musicians, looking for opportunities as I was working at the city of Chicago, and that sometimes became kind of tough too for some of the heavy schedules between the two.
So, like, for example, playing all night, now you got to go to work in the morning.
Yeah, kind of thing. I was never a clubber player, if you would, you know, to say I was never the guy to go in at 11 at midnight to play at a venue and get home at 4 or 5 in the morning to go right back to work. Those gigs I usually turned down because of family, I really never wanted to follow that pursuit. I was always more interested in the corporate and the professional world of the music industry.
Right.
So it wasn't as cumbersome as that up until I got into music production, which is another conversation.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think is important that, you know, for people who are interested in, you know, maybe not just film, music, but entertainment, is, was there in your particular story, was there a moment when you thought, man, you know, I'm digging it, but maybe I'm not making, maybe I should just hang it up and get a 9 to 5. Well, you had 9 to 5, but was there ever a moment when you kind of started to waver in your own personal story with this?
Oh yeah. There's most musicians will probably say the same. There's always that, you know, you have your peaks, and even the best, you know, have their peaks, and then there's no peaks, and where do I go next? What do I do next? I'm not getting the calls. They're not coming through. So there was plenty of moments where I felt that not enough work was coming through, which is challenging for a musician, because then we look at ourselves, are we good enough? Or, you know, musicians are, you know, the industry sometimes demands a certain look, a certain image of a musician's depending on the level of your performance.
Right.
So if you're getting on stage with an A-list artist, you have to look the part, right? So if you're much older and you got gray hair and, you know, you got a little chunk in front of you here, you had a little gut, you may not get that gig, no matter how well and how many chords you can play. But you get the young kid that's, you know, 20 years old, looking good, sharp, nice and slick, and all he knows is about 3 or 4 chords. He'll probably get on the set before you do. So that becomes, for a musician, a challenge for us how to deal with that, because no one prepares us for that. You know.
What do you like most about being a musician?
The creativeness of it. the fact that music can be used in so many applications, and it's something that moves the heart no matter what. It's going to set a tone for something, music. Right. And I like that. I like to see the people lit up when they hear music.
And do you have, what's the name of your band?
So I don't have a band.
You don't have a band? Okay.
No, I've never had. Well, I did. I was with a friend of mine. We had for a short period. We had a Latin jazz band.
What was the name of it?
Rushing Wind. It's just the name of my business, Rushing Wind Productions.
Kind of dope.
Yeah, Rushing Wind. Yeah, it comes from the Bible. It's a whole thing. But it was a friend of mine who was a great pianist. He did a lot of great things, and some other friends. We got together and we just started doing Latin jazz gigs and that kind of stuff.
I like Latin jazz. So correct me if I'm wrong, but Fania Records.
Oh yeah, Fania Records.
That era. I don't know if that is Latin jazz, but there was a lot of artists.
Yes.
Kind of moving in that direction with that.
Yeah, that was heavier in the salsa.
Okay.
Salsa world. But with Latin jazz, there is a similarity, but it's a fusion between salsa and jazz. Is basically what it is. But the Fania was big in salsa. That was in the 70s. That was huge.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it was good stuff. Good stories.
I still play it at home. I'm cooking up or making something to eat. Yeah, my neighbor's looking at me like, this dude's crazy over there. Now, explain the difference between salsa, bachata, and cumbia. Is that the other one?
Yeah, cumbia. There's reggaeton, which is involved now. Well, salsa, I think. So reggaeton, outside of cumbia, reggaeton, bachata, those kind of came about later on in the industry, and I think they were pretty much a fusion of the Latin music period. They would take some Latin elements and they would drop it, with this beat, this backbeat, and the end, and that's kind of and that seemed to move people, so it just became a hit, and so reggaeton, all these big names, Daddy Yankee and Don Omar, these guys just blew up because of that beat. Somehow they grabbed some Latin elements and added this backbeat behind it and called it reggaeton, and which has a little reggae to it too.
It does.
And so they fuse all that together. Now, cumbia is more of that's more of a traditional. I think it stems from actually Colombia. I believe is where cumbia comes from, and even Mexican. It has this, it has some of a similarity of reggaeton, but it's much slower, at a slower tempo.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, for my Latino listeners and viewers, we love y'all, but that's the stuff that sounds like the clown music, right?
Yep.
Circus music. Boom, boom, boom.
Exactly.
Circus coming to town. I have always liked creativity. I've always liked those styles of music, even if I couldn't decipher which I was listening to or what the words were. Do you perform in English and Spanish, or is it strictly English?
Most English, but I perform both, and I have performed both. Different genres. I mean, I've done everything pretty much except punk rock.
Right.
Remember the acid?
Maybe you should do one.
I know, right?
Call it Orale.
Well, I know. Right, it's a good one.
So before we get into Rushing Wind, before we get into that, I just want to ask you, what does America mean to you?
Oh my God, opportunity. This was a good opener for me in viewing America most recently. So I was in a meeting. It was a meeting. It was more of a workshop of the industry, the film industry. There was a gentleman who comes from France, lives in California now. He was heavy in sales of the film industry, finding a distribution deal for people, and he was sharing about our country versus, say, France. He says, let me put this in perspective. He says, I have this movie that I did it's a very decent movie, but it was done with a lower budget, obviously, but it was well shot. Everything looks class A. He says, I wanted to get this in the right hands for an opportunity. So I don't recall what label company he called or the individual, but let's just say it was Warner Brothers and, John Smith at Warner Brothers. He says, in America, he says, I was able to pick up the phone. The receptionist answers and says, hey, I want to talk to John Smith. And like, okay, who's calling? All right, 1 second. And after about 15 minutes, he got right to the call The call, there's another assistant to John Smith. She picks up. Yes, who's this? Oh, okay, John Smith will be right with you. Can he call you right back? Sure, no problem. Well, he hung up the phone. He's thinking he's not going to get that call back, right? It's John Smith from Warner Brothers.
Right.
15 minutes later, phone rings. It's John Smith from Warner Brothers. How can I help you? He says, you try doing that in France? Good luck to you. You're not going to be able to get to anyone. That being said, it's a place where, for creative people particularly, but I think in general, if you're really determined to get something and want something, have passion and a heartbeat for it, set all the things and all the challenges to the side, and if you just see that tunnel vision of where you want to get to, you can do that here. You really, in America, have that opportunity.
Right.
You know, it's part of my life journey. You know, everything I do, I call it my journey, because I just go for it. You know, and if you're in another world, another country, good luck with that. You know, there's so much red tape. There's so many other things now. That's just not going to happen. You know,
Yeah.
But America means for me that the opportunity for you to get somewhere. If you're determined, you just keep at it. Forget the challenges. Go for it. So
your perspective on this is important, I think, for people to hear, because with parents who have the background that you do, it's definitely that it definitely seems that Puerto Rico and Puerto Rican culture has been a strong focal point in your life. But I'm anxious, and I'd like to see how America plays a part and what your perspective is on that. It's interesting because a lot of people have stories other than yours, and when I ask that same question, they're, America, you know, it's kind of gloom and doom. And I find that, you know, this is a question I ask of everybody. It's interesting to see what people's responses are.
Yeah. And I could see that. I mean, man, my day starts with always with a prayer. You know, when I jump in the studio, and there's so many other guys that I know have gone so much. You know, they've gotten much greater accolades and success than you know. I'm a fraction of that where they've gotten to, but I don't focus on that. I focus on the opportunities. I focus on the opportunity that I have daily to make music,
right.
to be able to be in my element and to live in a country where I can do that, and have the freedom to that. And as long as my wife says it's cool, I'm in. You know,
right.
it's all good. So I feel, yeah, I have not, you know, outside of, do we run into challenges in America? Sure, but they're just challenges like anything else. Taxes, you know, or gasoline is higher across the street than it is over here. That's a challenge in itself, you know,
right.
or making that decision and why. You know, you just go for what's best for you and just press forward. We get that here in the U.S.
The time is now 8:34 a.m. and you are listening to Good Morning Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast, and we're glad to be joined by Mr. Eddie Torres of Rushing Wind Productions.
Yes, correct.
All right, Rushing Wind. Where does that name come from?
So that comes from a Bible verse that talks about the Holy Spirit coming in the mountain to the people, like violent rushing winds. We just omitted the violent.
Okay,
the rushing winds.
It wasn't really a typhoon. It was kind of like a breeze.
It was just a breeze, a little breeze, and it was a good breeze for the people.
Right.
And it stemmed from the initial Latin jazz band. We had that. What was my partner in that business at that time? You know, we just said, let's start a music production, and let's just call it the same name as the jazz band. We'll just add production to it. So we did that. Him and I parted ways, and we're still great friends. No bad feelings. And then I started my DBA and got my own business license, and tried to learn a little bit. And again, I don't have a lot of schooling behind me, so it was a lot of learning and figuring things out, but I'm trying to do it as good as I could.
No, I feel you with the non-schooling part. Some of the best advice I've been given, and some of the most actionable advice has not come from the guy with his damn Columbia degree of theater and all that. Like, I've had the best tips from a brother. Like, look, my dad taught me this.
Yeah.
Turn the mic towards the guy and you can hear it,
That's
like,
it.
oh, shit.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Or turn the phantom power on, the mic works.
Exactly. But also, as you detailed to us, you have an experience of having to work, get this instrument, learn it, master it, grow, and develop yourself. So I think that's pretty cool. Now, is Rushing Wind Production, is that, you do film, you do music, what else does it encompass?
So it encompasses anything I can do music.
Okay.
And here's where I learned that. I came into music production thinking I was just going to be the music producer, produce the artist, or make the music arrangements. You know, the letter A to letter Z in music world, the whole behind the scene. And found out that I'm really narrowing my opportunities. I'm really trying to stay in one lane where I can do more with what I have. And I got an opportunity to write a jingle for Telemundo.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Telemundo Chicago, right?
Shout out Telemundo.
Telemundo. So I was excited about that opportunity. I'm like, jingle, wait, you know, what does that mean? What, you know, it was just music. It's just creating more music, but you're just creating it for a different format.
Right.
So, wait, you could do voiceovers too in the studio? Yeah, sure. Let's
Yeah.
create. So I get an opportunity to be a voiceover talent for a 3D animation book and character that's out on Amazon. You know, and so I do as much as I can. Now, I'm also of the mind that you know, what is it? Jack of all trades, and master of none.
Yep.
I don't like that. I'd like to master one. And so really the mastering of me of what I do in the music world is making music. So learning music as it applies to the artist, as it applies to film, as it applies to a jingle, to a commercial, you know. And Telemundo, doing that opened some you know, good opportunities. I did Delray Farm, I did TCF Bank, I did a few different, you know, and even some advertisement agencies would contact to do some
Right.
jingles for them. And the whole boys, remember the old commercial, the whole time talking about the bad boys, the old, I don't know if you ever
The
heard.
Wet Boys.
The Wet Boys, yes.
You did that?
I did the Spanish version of that.
Holy shit. Yo, let me get your autograph.
Oh,
bro.
no. And that was later on, and it was radio played, so if you ever
Yeah.
hear the Spanish version of that, I gave it a different flair, kind of a cumbia.
Yeah. Oh my
They
God.
got a little feel to it. But yeah, that was a wonderful experience. So that just made me I'm like, I got to make music for whatever.
Was it? All right. So with that Spanish version of that jingle, would it have played on like La Ley and all those?
So the advertisement agency kind of coordinated the stations they were
Okay.
using, but I think they were attacking every possible Latin radio station,
Sure.
both FM and AM dials.
Because there ain't that. Well, I'm showing my age. There haven't been that many Latin radio stations in Chicago.
No, now recently I think I found I don't know how long it's been around, but I found a dial on FM 90, I don't know, somewhere around 93 point something, and I hear a lot of reggaeton there
Okay.
just recently, and it just, but you're right, historically there wasn't, you know,
Yeah.
unless outside of going to the
The whole town was talking about the
Web Boys, the Web
Web
Boys,
That is a
the Web
jam.
Boys,
Oh
yeah.
my God.
So now it's like the
Holy
whole town is talking about the Web Boys.
Little soul to it.
Yeah, but in Spanish. Yeah, the directors loved it.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, great, you know. So
Latino car purchases are up 30%.
yeah, that's a good. I should look into that.
Yeah.
That'll do good.
So when we talk about producing a jingle as opposed to the song or music, what is the process? Is it the same or are there differences?
There are differences on a technical end.
Okay.
Making music is making music, you know, creating a hook. You know, you're giving a thought of like what could be catchy. Is it 100 jazz chords to the novice ear or the average person? Or is it a good 3 or 4 notes of a hook that people could understand and catch? And that's generally the case. So, and then you're basically creating a format for, if it's radio jingle, you know, you have a 60, a 30, and 15-second kind of a spot generally that they like you to cut. But it's really that. It's just formatting the jingle for that the time frame. So they're generally much shorter. You know, the lyrics are very short. And that's really it. But ultimately, it's creating the same music as you are for an artist. You're just trying to make it, you know, fit the style of the product that
Right.
you're trying to brand.
What was your first film?
So my first film, the best story ever. I love this because
Told you, bro.
yeah, we get there. My first film was called Now with a Jewel. It's an international film. And you want me to go into the story just a little bit?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I get a call from this wonderful lady who says, "Hey, you know, I dropped your name for film," and He said, you know, you're interested? And I said, well, yeah, I'm interested. And didn't think anything of it. All of a sudden, I get a call from Los Angeles for a producer. And he says to me, you know, introduces himself, and he says, how'd you like to score this movie? We've seen some of your work, and we're interested in you scoring the film. And I said, yeah, no problem. Yeah, okay, great. And so,
me and coach.
yeah, I'm getting coached, you know, try to do diligent. Met this guy who's an attorney in Los Angeles, kind of coached me through some of the legal stuff, and agreed to do it, you know. And then all of a sudden, you know, he calls back and says, okay, so here's your challenge. You have a film that's in 2 languages. It's Malayalam, India, and in English. They're going to shoot in Malayalam first, and then they're going to reset the crew and set and start shooting in English. You have 1 month to score this film. I said, okay, 1 month. Now,
No problem.
No problem. I got this. Okay, you sure? Yes, no problem. By the way, the director's from India, and he doesn't speak much English. I said, okay. So, India's about 10-hour difference. So, I said, okay, hung up the call, and I said, what did I get myself into? But I learned to not say no to opportunity. I've learned to say, yes, I can do that, and I'll figure it out. I know how to make music. I just got to figure out the logistics, but I don't say no to opportunity. So I say, I'm in. I hang up, and I'm freaking out, but I'm going to do this. So the director calls, and the first night, and realize, well, he's calling me at like midnight, 1 in the morning. It's because their time difference. That's the morning for them. So now my hours shifted to 80 hours a week, and I'm working through the night. I literally was sleeping 2-3 hours if I got 2 or 3 hours of sleep.
Right.
And so I was working through the night because that's when I was dealing with their tech department, when they started sending me the reels, and so
at this time though, you're still working for Midway.
No. So I gave in Midway. I resigned in 2001.
Okay.
That's when I got my business license and got my DBA for Rushing Wind Productions. So this just came about in around 2006 when I got the film opportunity. 2006. And so I said, yeah, I'm in. And so then all of a sudden, I'm dealing with the crew overnight, and that was the biggest challenge. I never shaved. I'd go to bed at 5 in the morning. My wife was getting up at 4:30 in the morning to get ready to go to her job downtown Chicago. And so I'm saying good morning. She's saying, you know, goodbye, going to bed. Right. And about 10 o'clock, I'm getting back up. And I would rush down to the studio and work that same cycle all the way through the next morning.
Shit.
Because I had 2 films to do. I committed, and I said, no one here in the U.S. I feel would have gave me the opportunity with not knowing that I didn't know how to do film. That was my thoughts. Not mean that couldn't happen.
Right.
So then, so I went ahead and I scored the film, didn't shave, I look a mess. I mean, I didn't clean or anything. My wife was like, you got to do something about that face. I said, no.
You're looking like Tom Hanks when he was doing the roller coaster.
Exactly, yep. And I said, no, this is just kind of, maybe it's just a symbolical thing. I'm just, And so I finished the film in both languages in 30 days. And there was so much learning on the technical end of this that I literally fought my way. I didn't have anyone I can go to that say, hey, all right, so once I finished with all the I had 100 and something tracks of instrumentation on these film reels, and I said, what do I do when I finish? How do and how do I get this done? And I just didn't have anyone. It was just like literally I had to figure it out. Right. And so I scored it, and so I send the first piece to the director, and it was a certain scene. I sent it to him, and he responds right away. He says, I knew I picked the right guy. When he said that, I was like, I'm in. I'm getting paid. I'm in. Yes. Yeah. You know that feeling.
Cha-ching, cha-ching.
Cha-ching, cha-ching. I'm in.
Yes.
So I pressed forward, but here's the depressing part for a moment. So the last reel, he says to me, this final reel is the main piece of the film. This film is based on a true story of an Iranian girl who was hung to death because she protected herself. She killed a federal official who was trying to rape her. In addition to the other federal officials that had raped her already.
Right.
So she was in prison for this, and she was sentenced to death. Now, in the film, they made it a fiction to twist it to give it a better end.
Sure.
I don't want to spoil it, but I think I just did. But
I've seen this movie.
Yeah, you've seen this movie. Yeah, it was out last week. And so this scene was when she's walking to the rope to get hung was very crucial. A moment between her mom seeing her daughter walk to this rope, and I mean it's a beautiful setup. He says the music here has to tear the heart apart.
Right.
It has to tear you have.
Right.
So I said, okay. I always erred in less is more. It's my approach in film. I'd rather the director say, you're on track, give me a little more with that, as opposed to, no, you're totally off track. So I write a piece of music, very simple. It was more of a piano, ambient piano, while she's walking. There's no dialogue, there's no Foley, there's nothing. It's just silence and this ambient piano as the guards are walking her to her platform where she's going to get hung. So I write this piece of music, and I think, man, I said, I'm feeling it. So anytime I wrote it, I'm looking at the scene. I said, is it moving my own heart? Is it moving me? And I felt it. So I send it to him. Get a response a day later. He said, I'm very disappointed in you. I said, this is not. I had higher expectations for this scene. This is not what I need. This is not what I want. I need more. I sat down on the couch and I didn't know how to take that information. I thought I lost a job at that point. I said, I just messed up here. And I text my wife and I said, I think I screwed up. I thought this is it.
Right.
And so I said, what are you going to do? And I said, I got to get back in it. So I jumped back in there. Built on that same, because that chord, that melody line just felt so good. To me, it felt good. I'm like,
you didn't scrap it.
I didn't scrap it. I built on it.
All right.
So I built on that track, did some more things, added some strings, gave it a little more ambient, gave it a little more feet, gave it a little more heartbeat. I sent it off. 3 days later, I respond. He responds back to me in a text, and he says, I still save the text. He says to me, you just made me cry. Thank you, Eddie. This is what I wanted. So when I'm hearing a director say, I just made you cry as a director, directors don't really cry. I mean, it's just to get them to get moved. They had over 125 crew members on this film. It was a pretty well budgeted and put together film. And so he moved, and after I've never met him in person until I went out and got my first nomination for that film in Amsterdam. But it was the seal of the deal. From that moment on, it was like me understanding now how to work with a director. I'm like, I got to learn to understand it. So that was the film, my first film to work on. Now
was your first director working with?
Yes.
First everything, basically.
First everything in film.
What did it feel like getting that award, and what was the award?
So I got okay, that's another little short story. I'll
keep going, bro. Keep it up.
So I'm sitting down in the
episode is
oh man. I hope people take some good out of this, man. So I'm sitting down at the couch. It's Sunday night, about 8 o'clock in the evening, watching some TV with my wife. I get a text from the director. Did you see my email? And I said to him, no, it's Sunday. I'm not really checking my emails. And so I said to him, no, I'll check now. So I went in my emails. It says, congratulations, you've just been nominated for Best Original Score for this film. Good win. And I'm looking at this, and I couldn't believe it. I was in sole disbelief. It felt so surreal that I didn't say anything to my wife till 2 days later. I'm sitting on the couch. I text him back, is this real? He said, yes, my friend, you deserve this and more. Congratulations. Thank you for being a vital part of this film. So I hang up, and I'm just I kept watching TV. And it was just going through my whole mind process. The following day came about. It's still processing to me. On day 2, I sent my wife a message. I texted her. I didn't even tell her in person. I said to her, by the way, I was nominated for Best Original Score. She said, oh, wow, what do you mean? What does that mean? I said, I don't know. I know they're flying me out there. So fast forward, I'm thinking the nomination, man, to me, that's the win, right? I get to the award, I get to the Amsterdam.
Well, I don't even got a win.
No, I got no win. I got a nomination. I'm happy about, nomination is like a win for me.
Yeah.
So I get to Amsterdam, they fly me out there, we meet, we got our own banquet, it's the red carpet day, and everyone's out, dressed, everyone's looking sharp, they got all these screens, they're gonna do the show. And I'm sitting with the director. First time I meet him, we finally met face to face, and they had a couple of the actors from the film and some of the film guys were there. So a bunch of people, met a lot of other great people during that week because it's a film fest. So you have an opportunity to meet other film directors and get to connect and network, etc.
Yeah.
And my name is Eddie. I do music.
Who's this dude?
Yeah, who's this then?
I was nominated.
Yeah, I was nominated, man. So now we're sitting down at the awards show, and they start, announcing the different categories, and they get to the category of best original score, and there was about 25 other films that were also nominated around the world, because this is an international fest. And in my mind, I know I'm not going to win, so I'm just excited. I'm like, who's going to win? This is kind of a cool experience. I'm just watching the screen, and they get to our film. They show that little quick clip, and they mention my name on there, and they show the next clip, and they keep going on. And then at the very end, the host up there with her nice, wonderful British accent, and the winner for the best original score is Nawa the Jewel, Eddie Torres. And I'm sitting there, and everyone just stands up on my table, and I developed some good relationship with some other film directors that I heard them from a distance. They were yelling over there, and I'm sitting down, and the one actress was sitting next to me. She says, "You got to say a speech." So she hits me with the elbow, Eddie, and I'm like, oh, so, I felt my body literally shrink. I felt like I couldn't move. So she said, "You got to get up." So I get up. I was totally unprepared. I did not have a speech card. I didn't have anything about, I want to thank the Academy, or I want to thank none of that. So I get to the front. They give me the mic. They give me the award. They're snapping pictures, and I got so nervous I forgot to. I thanked everyone except the film director.
Oh!
Talk about a boo-boo.
I want to thank my mom.
Yes, everyone got thanked except my director. I apologized later on. He made a note. He said, "You forgot to mention me." Right. And I apologize. I'm so sorry.
Had to feel good with that British accent name, Eddie Torres.
Yes, and Eddie Torres, and yeah, it was fantastic. It was the best experience ever to win. I had no reason. I didn't grow up winning awards or winning medallions or anything like that. So this was very significant. Not the product itself. It's just you have the trophy. It's always a memory, but it's me. It's the journey. I see that, and I see, God, what it took, what I've done on my own.
Yeah.
The challenges in life just to be able to get this one.
Who was the director of this film?
Renji, I always have trouble pronouncing it, but his first name is Renji Damoran.
Okay. Now this is what's considered Bollywood. Is that correct?
Mollywood.
Mollywood.
Yeah, India's huge in the film industry. So they have Bollywood, Mollywood, and I think there's another one. Those are the three major film industry. Mollywood is the Malayalam side of the country. There's another huge film industry. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I think that's like a provincial area, something like that.
It could be.
This is not National Geographic today.
No. I know.
We're talking about film, not
right.
Social studies.
That's good though.
All right. So now you've won your first award.
Yes.
You're in Amsterdam. You're sitting there. You've received your accolades and things like that. Tell me about coming back from Amsterdam as a winner.
I came back excited, obviously, and I got that award inside my backpack, coming across, and even when I go through security checkpoints, they see an object and they're like, "What is this?" So they're going to inspect, and oh, congratulations, I should have done some selfies with some of the TSA guys, yeah, because they're pulling it out. They're like, "Congratulations,
Watch out, Eddie Torres,
right, exactly." So I came home and I took a day off, and the second day I came down to work to the studio, and I sat there, on a side note, about 5 years previous to this win, maybe about 4 years previous to this win, I had a gentleman from Texas, I don't know, from Adam, and I was at a church service, and he called me out, and he says to me, "You're going to win some awards." He says, "And you're not even, I don't know what you do." He said, "But you don't even know where they're going to come. You're not going to suspect where they're coming from." So, he's telling me this, and in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm in the music industry. I'm gracefully a Grammy voting member, and I'm privileged to do voting for the Grammys. And I'm thinking, if maybe that'd be great. One day I'll get a Grammy. So film wasn't even in my scope, and someone had recorded that conversation, and it hit me while I was sitting in the studio that morning. I said, "Wait a second." So I go into to find this clip in my computer, and I find it, and I go, and it all hit. It just, there was a sense of, wow, somebody spoke into my life. This was going to happen, And he spoke more. It was, there's like you're going to win awards, and I'm thinking I didn't hear plural. I heard one.
Right. Yeah.
And fast forward. It's just some additional awards came in the same film as well as another recent film that I've done, and so I came back, and it was a time of reflection. It really was a reflection. That's all I felt like, was just reflecting again. I mean, I tell you, every day I step in the studio, it's not necessarily giddy. It's more, man, I'm just lucky. I'm just lucky to be here, to be able to do this every day. Something that I love to do. So it's always smiles.
Oh, brother.
I see your smile. I see that smile.
If my questions seem redundant, falling upon the feeling aspect, how did it feel coming from here? How did it feel coming from there? I like to know, because, like, shit, what people don't understand about this show is, like, I am happier than a...
Oh, I could
tell you, man.
I could tell,
man.
man.
The world,
I could tell,
like,
yeah.
I like creating, and I like giving a gift to other people. I like the fact that people are like, yo, I didn't know that Carl Franco, I interviewed this alderman, Alderman Carl Franco, who a lot of people don't know a lot about. A lot of people don't like him.
Okay.
I love the guy.
Okay.
One of the reasons why I love the guy is because he was an air traffic controller for many years.
Wow. You
got to have your head and your balls screwed on pretty tight to be an air traffic controller. Now that is despite, he voted for the increase of this, he voted for the ragged. Look, who cares?
Right.
To do something that you love and then make another pivot into trying to help the community in regards to an alderman, I give a lot of leeway to people who are actually doing their passion and trying to do what they want to do. I really dig that.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's the interest that I have. And when people take interest in the show and they learn from it, I feel good. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I didn't know that. It's like,
that's
you
awesome.
hated the guy until you found out that his mom passed from cancer, or he was an air traffic controller, or he was actually an army guy, got shrapnel in his leg, now he's running for office. That's what I like.
That's awesome.
So that's it's a really
I
good
wish
feeling.
this camera was on you. Folks would see his face light up when he talks about what he does.
Yeah, man, I love
he
it.
lights up, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, it's like, and it's like you with that, when you got to the amp, the $80 amplifier. Yeah, you're like, how are we gonna play bass? My mom was like, I can't hear it. Like,
I can't.
The $80 amp.
Yeah,
Like,
the
oh,
$80 amp. Yep.
Now tell us about your recent film.
So the recent film is the recent one I'm working on, or the one that I finished?
Well, let's do the one you finished.
Okay, so that was a film. I met another film director in Amsterdam who kept tabs on me. And fast forward a few years later, he's working on a film in the country of Georgia. And it's a short film, actually. It's called Romance. Mm-hmm. And he reached out about scoring the film. And I said, absolutely. I mean, opportunity. So
right.
I worked with him, scored that film. And that film got nominated as well. And I won an award on that one in London.
Oh,
in Spain. In Spain.
Okay,
In
very
Spain.
nice.
I won in Spain, in Valencia, Spain. I won for that film, Romance. And so so another relationship. The good thing about and I'm learning this as I go. If you develop a good relationship with directors and you do well and you follow their heartbeats and because some don't, you hear it all the time. A lot of directors don't know anything about music. They're like, you do your thing, you know what to do. But there's directors who like they want to feel
right
because they put so much time into this picture. So when they're seeing picture, like the music better move, they better ride with this scenes and so that did well and so he's him and the previous director, they're already working on their next films and I'm slotted in there and I'm like yes, yeah, absolutely. So we still stay in touch. We still stay in touch on that film.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Now for our listeners, because we do shout out to Humboldt Park, shout out to the east side and the west side.
Yes, sir.
Georgia is not the state.
No.
There's a country called Georgia.
Country of Georgia, yes.
It's a landlocked, tiny country that Russia invaded in 1990.
Wow, your
I
stuff.
believe, yeah.
That's it.
Now let's talk about the most recent film that's still being worked on.
Yeah,
Under
it's in
production.
post-production. Yeah, so Life Ain't Like the Movies. That's the title of this movie. I'm
I like
really,
that.
yeah,
I
Life
like
Ain't Like
that.
the Movies.
Because it ain't.
No, it ain't. And the director, I had a privilege to meet him in London, which I coincidentally won. I also won an award there for Now of the Jewel. He was there on a film of his. We met, and he reached out about a year and some change later. He was working on this film and would like to bring me on board as his composer. And I said, I'm in. Yeah, let's do it. And we have two good, actually about three SAG actors, and I'm pretty excited about that. Cinda Williams, which was with, she was known for her Mo Better Blues with Denzel Washington. She's casting in there.
Oh, that's a
Cinda
good
Williams.
movie.
Oh, isn't it? Oh, yeah. And I'm a Denzel. I'm hoping one day I can do something on Denzel's film.
Oh,
But
hell
my
yeah.
wife and I, we
Eddie Torres.
Yeah.
Denzel.
Oh, yeah, that even sounds good.
The Equalizer 4.
You heard it here in Good Morning Aurora.
Very cool.
Yeah. And then there's Paul Bates from Good Morning. Welcome back with. Oh God, good. Oh, I just had a brain fart here. Sorry. Good. Coming Back to America. With what's the comedian? Eddie Murphy. With Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
Yes, Paul Bates. So the younger little guy, the prince.
Yeah.
You remember him?
Oh, yeah.
He's in our film. He played. This is fast forward now, but he plays the grandfather in the film that I'm working on.
Very
So I'm pretty
cool.
excited about that. Yeah. So and then there's a gentleman by the name of Wendell. Wendell's doing some great stuff too. I think he just signed in with General Hospital. He's going to be in a film there. So
General Hospital?
Yeah.
The old school
The
story?
old school soap. I think
Oh.
I think he signed a deal to be. I didn't even know that show was still around.
Man, holy cow. I was just talking about General Hospital today's
That's been around for
Wednesday.
decades.
This might have been Sunday.
Yeah.
Talking to somebody about like those soap operas. All My Children.
All My
all
Children.
that. Yeah, oh
Yeah,
my
Days of
God.
My Life or something like this. Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so did I. I had a sister, so
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily a fan of watching it, but my sister was, and
You know what I learned about watching those though? I learned that suspense and I learned that suspense and emotion in a scene can be captured even in the most boring,
yes,
right? Because it's like General Hospital. The lady's in there and she's all, she's sick. Oh, mom's not gonna make it. And then what was something? The main character walks out the door and then it's dun 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 like Bill.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
so-
And it becomes cinematic. Exactly.
Then it's something holy,
And
like,
it's
holy
like,
cow,
what-
what happens now?
Yeah. And the director, shout out to him, is Robert Butler. That's the director for this film, Life Ain't Like the Movies.
Okay.
Younger guy, very ambitious, and has a great. I mean, we seem to be getting along very well. And he's from Michigan, so it's a big deal for me. It's probably my first actually U.S. full feature film, so I'm excited about that.
I was gonna say, we've got London, Amsterdam, and Spain.
Hmm. And
Seems-
Italy.
And Italy. A lot of Europeanism in your filming.
Yes.
You're working with people. Why is that, or did that just happen?
It's opportunity. The opportunity can come from anywhere, and I wasn't expecting a call from that. But I think what that did for me, it broadened the opportunities worldwide, because now I'm meeting directors all over the world, not
Right.
just the U.S., but anywhere. And I got a great friend director out of South Africa, who's we're in talks about possibly working a film on his end, and he does some great films. And so I think it just opened up a big platform, and it might be the destination or the staging for where the direction of my career is going to go. Maybe that's the way it was designed for me to get into Los Angeles, California, Hollywood film kind of thing. And again, it'd be great to hold an Oscar. Why not, right? But I'm just happy to do music, man, wherever it comes.
You've achieved a lot. So this will be a personal question. An Oscar win would be huge for you, but I get the sense that it wouldn't reinvent you necessarily, would it?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it would just bring. It would probably just put my name a little more in the U.S. I think it'll probably put me more in
Because you've
that.
done a lot just with your achievements already. That's huge.
Yeah.
So an Oscar win, not to downplay the significance
Right.
of winning an Oscar,
Yeah.
but an Oscar win for you would be like another stamp of certification in a way, kind of, right? Is that a fair way to say it?
I think it sounds really good. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that sounds really good. Yeah, and I think again, like it's the opportunity to do what I love to do, the opportunity to be able to do with whatever I do. I've never been. I want to get a Hollywood name. I've never had that mindset of that. My goal was to get to Hollywood. Never. In fact, if that was probably my game, I'm in the wrong city. You know, early on, probably I should have made a move to a more musical, film and driven city like L.A. or New York, or and see and meet with people there. But I opted to do it here and decided that I can, if I'm going to have some success, I can do it here. There's talent here, and you hear it all the time. You hear talent that we got here, and sometimes they're like nuggets. They're hidden in our own cities, and we don't even know. Or they leave our city, do fantastic, then they feel, for whatever reason, they move to a LA city and or a big New York city and continue their career from that point on.
Right. Like that song. You can go your own way.
Yeah, there you go.
Go your own
Right.
way. So Amsterdam, Italy, world travel, awards, films and post-production. What's next?
Anything that has to do with music. In terms of film, what I have possibly down the line is I had an opportunity that's kind of in the air with Bollywood, a film in Bollywood, and yes, definitely another Mollywood film is in the talks. But film for me has become like a highlight of my career, and I've gravitated so much, but I feel like it's my first day in the studio again. I'm learning a lot, and I have to figure out a lot and chisel my way through it, which brings another excitement because it's not another day in the studio,
Right.
It becomes like another new birth, for me. So I develop a new heartbeat for film, and if there's something about music to picture that fires me up.
Oh, hell yeah.
It just fires me up. Yep.
All right, couple quick questions before we go. This is film stuff specifically for you. First of all, do you have a favorite film?
Do I have a favorite film? Oh my gosh. So I mentioned Denzel Washington. There's a film, Q. Oh my God. Where his son.
I'm about to say, don't say Ice Cube.
No. It's with Denzel Washington, where his son goes into this medical, gets sick.
John Q.
John Q. There we go.
That's a good movie.
Good movie. That's a powerful movie, man.
Yeah, that's a good movie. Yeah.
So I'd have to say that's one of my favorite movies. Yeah.
All right. Now, do you have a favorite scene in a movie with the music and I don't know how to articulate this well. Is there a favorite musical score and scene that you have in a movie where you're like,
it's memorable?
Really does it for you? Yeah.
It's memorable. There's a scene. I'm a person of Christian faith, so the movie where Jesus Christ, the last movie that Mel Gibson did, Passion of the Christ. He the score, when he's about ready to get crucified. That score. In fact, when I was scoring now with a Jewel, it was one of my go-to to kind of inspires. It's one of my ways also when I'm working on a piece of music. I just disconnect from the computer and I fire some scores and just kind of close my eyes and I just meditate on music and just let it move me, because that's what I want to happen while I start writing music for the film. And Passion of the Christ was definitely one that I went to. And Gladiator was another one as well. But
That's a good movie.
Yeah, it is.
Gladiator.
Yeah, Gladiator is
Really
a fantastic
Why
movie.
are you not attacking?
Right.
That is
Isn't it?
That became
Yes.
like a little tagline cult. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'll never forget. I moved from an apartment to a house. Nice backyard, hanging out back there and everything. And I was shooting, like I was shooting this ball in between just two big branches in the backyard making hoops. And as I'm doing this, shooting between two branches, oh, Jordan, my son's looking at me like, Dad, it's not even a real hoop. I'm like, are you not at the time?
Yeah, exactly.
It's grown.
It's grown
to a thing now.
It is.
Now, how can people find out about Running Wind and find your work and everything?
So my Eddie Torres music is pretty much my handle on all my platforms, including my website, my social media. I have my page, my Facebook page, and Instagram. I'm definitely an Instagram guy.
What was life before the gram?
Oh my God! It was just like, this is so clean, this is so smooth, this has got to blow up. Yeah, Instagram, it's the thing, man. But Eddie Torres Music is my handle on pretty much all my my social media, my connections to if anyone wants to know a little more about what I do. Try to stay on top of the web page and put content, relevant content, and gotten better with adding news to my website on things that could motivate.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Like even on our website and everything, I saw like a couple more places I should highlight and augment. I'm getting good traffic out of certain aspects of the page, but I'm like as you mentioned before we started.
Yeah.
The older episodes and some of the links are earlier stuff. People have an interest in that now.
Yeah.
So it's a lot.
No, it is. It's working itself. It's working itself. But it's all about, for me, it's really, I really want to be a part of encouraging younger or people who aspire to do what I do. And so when I put information on there, I've always keep that in mind. I try to be very intentional about posting that. Right. So if I post, behind the scenes is a big one for me, because the people, younger kids who want to know about what happens in the scene. I've had kids come in my studio. I had one kid, he was on 6 years of Columbia College, and great college. In fact, got a couple of friends who are teachers there, and he sat in the studio with a client, and at the end of the session, he comes to me and he says to me, not for nothing, he says, but I think I've gotten more out of this day session with you than I have probably in 6 years in Columbia. And I think it's not so much no knowledge you're getting in Columbia College, but I think there's a different perspective when you're actually in that scene, that behind the scene. What does a day look like in the studio? It's not as pretty as you see it on picture. So putting up anything that has to do with behind the scene is, for me, it's always, I try to be intentional about posting those things.
Right. What's your message to up-and-coming filmmakers?
Man, don't give up and be consistent. Stay consistent. If you veer off from being consistent in what you want, then you'll never know if you're going to get there, because you're not. You gave up.
Right.
So stay consistent in what you believe in, and you'll get there. And I truly believe that.
The show ends on a positive note. What is your message to the people of Aurora going into today, Wednesday?
Dreams come true. I mean, without it sounding so cliche, believe in your dreams. We live in a country that you can make a difference. We live in a country where you can do what you'd like to do. Take advantage of that and make the best of it. Make good decisions.
Those are words of Eddie Torres on our show. We appreciate Mr. Torres for coming in and spending some time with Good Morning Aurora and talking to us. For all of you listeners out there, be blessed, be determined, be positive on this great day. Have a wonderful Wednesday, and whatever you're doing that's positive, don't give up. We will see you guys back here tomorrow for another great episode of Good Morning Aurora. Peace.
Peace.